This is a vehicle that comes to me today by means that, due to my semi-professional nature in business dealings, I am not going to elaborate fully on. But the interesting points of it are that it's a 1927 Pierce Arrow Series 80 two-door. Now, I don't remember the exact nomenclature for this. This may be a Club Sedan. I believe that's the correct term for it. I'm not 100% certain. But it is an interesting car that you can see the wood has issues. It's going to need a lot of woodwork. Going to need, in addition to seat top woodwork, full upholstery work, and essentially a complete restoration. The wooden steering wheel is nice, and it will, with sufficient force, turn the wheels, but I'm going to have to pull that to make sure that it remains intact and does not split or break. It is missing the ignition, but it does have the clock. And it shows 50 some odd thousand miles. Gauges are here. I do not understand this 1950s era switch being installed. I don't know the gear shift pattern. But it does seem to go into gear. Transmission seems to work quite well, actually. See? I will fiddle around with that later as I determine what works and what doesn't. The body is completely solid and rust-free. The car portion itself is aluminum, which was a unique signature trait of Pierce Arrow. The seller was kind enough to include this wonderful trunk where I have relocated the vast majority of the components pertaining to this car, too. You can see in here we have the distributor connected to the generator. There's the starter, the water pump, and there's the side pieces that cover the valve guides. These are the metal pieces for the floorboards. And these are more random metal bits. I don't admittedly know what this one does. So, I'll figure that out. The biggest pieces that are unfortunately missing, as you can see where someone has cut off the spare tire assemblies and the turn signals. Those are unfortunately expensive pieces to replace. Half of the bumper hardware is still here, so theoretically I could find small pieces and replace it easily enough. The wheels will need a complete restoration, and all of the wood. But I like the little bits you can still see of the gold pinstriping that went with the green. Black, green, and gold. It's been a very sharp car. The overspray means that at some point it had a crude repaint. That door handle is stubborn. There. But it does work. The carburetor, Tillotson, and intake and exhaust manifold are present. Floorboards are there. There's more of the fallen rust. The curtain pieces, the black silk is still there. The rods are there. So these will serve as templates. That windshield and front trim is going to be the hardest part. So you can see the roof is very, very rough. But I've seen worse, and aside from some damage to the glass here, the only piece that is missing or in serious need of Repair work is the windshield. The doors are remarkably solid. And if they lined up a little better, there, that one closes well. Could not be a problem. There's more of the broadcloth I have pulled from the car. But you can see here where I'm going to have to cap the oil fill. These are the cylinders and significant amount of mouse detritus in the water jackets. There inside by the starter looks clean. There's the lower radiator connector pipe. And you tried to turn these here, but that's connected to the cam, and I'm sure the motor's locked up. What's curious are these spark plugs. You see smaller plugs adapted to the larger ones. The wiring loom is still likely original wiring. This is very old hose. The oil filter canister is intact. I will find the control that works cowl vent. But the radiator does not appear to have been leaking. It's completely empty though and filled with some mouse detritus. Infernal mice. The crank piece here still travels on the spring, so you could push it in, put a crank on it. This, now don't hold me to it, but it looks like a welded on 34 or so Ford bar that someone had mounted either turn signals or running lights or something of the sort on at some point in this car's history. I'm not certain. But so far, the only major things I have found missing are the pulley setup for the radiator cooling fan and the tail light lens, as well as the ignition switch. And once again, back to how the door does not close, but if you lift it up, it will sit in there well. So this car has a tremendous amount of potential. And 440-4, is that a 50? 21-4 tires. These tires are ancient even. Well, again, I suspect, based on everything I know about the car, which admittedly isn't a lot, that it's likely been off the road since the Eisenhower era. But even so, you can still see the beautiful, subtle intricacies in the Pierce stamping and design. This wood is rough, but it will come back around or be replaced. The fenders are solid. There's no rust and rot through. Even the screws and bolts are accessible. The hood hinges would still work if there were a hood. Steering assembly is interesting. I don't know what exactly this rod that connects up here goes to on the steering. Very strange, but very interesting. A lot to figure out, but the valve guides all look good. This motor is going to need a full and complete rebuild though. I mean, you can see, for example, here all of the cracks in the cylinder head that were repaired. Just little things to do. But I love the quality you see on parts like this vacuum fuel delivery. You just don't see that anymore on vehicles. Stamped parts, stamped metal. Would have been a beautiful car back in its day with the rare bucket seats. There's a little pull handle and the switch for the lights for the back passenger. That railing is missing its curtain, but that one still has it. And this would have been an extremely beautiful car owned by a well-to-do individual, because Pierce Arrows were not cheap. At the time this one was produced, you could get a Model A Ford for around $700. And this car was over $2,000. You could buy 3 Model A's for the cost of this Pierce Arrow. 440, 450, 21 inch. I thought these were 22. Interesting. Well, 21 is fine. But Pierce Arrow was a very well-equipped car. You can see here that it has drum brakes on all four wheels. That was one of Pierce's big selling points back in the day. Most cars of this era either had just rear brakes or a transmission brake like the Model T. Pierce had full four-wheel brakes. The headlights mounted on the fenders was their signature trait, and finding the components that go in there is going to be interesting. Same with locating the hood. That is going to be the most expensive part to find on this car. But this is a vehicle that is 100% not beyond restoration. Yes, it needs everything, but a lot of things are available. The rotten wood wheels, you can still get them redone. Ironically, you turn to the Amish for buggy wheels. A good coat of paint, some cleaning up, and you could actually have this car looking complete, even if it's not, with very little work. It's one of those cars where it's not cost effective to do a full 100-point restoration, because beautiful and impressive as these cars were, pinnacles of luxury during the day, a fully restored Pierce Arrow, even one of this model, at best will bring in $50,000. And you will be spending 3 times that if you pay a shop to do it, minimum. I've seen quotes for just the interior work on a car like this go for up to $20,000. The woodwork, another $20,000. The engine and transmission rebuild, yep, there's $50,000. I mean, we're right there at $100,000 and we haven't even touched paint. But this is the kind of car where getting it back running, driving, and fixed reasonably is your ideal goal. You go with, instead of the correct interior cloth that's $100 a yard, cheap $5 a yard suit fabric. Instead of repainting it and going for a flawless finish, you leave it looking like this with a hood on it. You put maybe temporarily a set of other car headlights on this bar here. You just get it to where it'll go down the road and have fun, because if all you care about in owning a classic car is getting your money back out of it, it's not a fun hobby. But if you want to just enjoy it, work on it, and see what was arguably the finest built car in the world at the time for the individual to drive. Bear in mind, this car was built for an individual. It was not a chauffeured limousine like the Series 33 and 36 of its day. The Series 80 was designed for the well-to-do gadabout who enjoyed driving his own car. This one, being a two-door, a bit more of a caddish vehicle. You were showing up to a party in this, you were wealthy and you didn't care. It's a little bit of a flaunt on these. They were the car of old money, but they mostly went with the four-door sedans. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough about this, but you'll see more about this car. I'm going to try and figure out quite a bit on it, see what the best course of action is to do, see if I can sell a few others in my fleet to throw some money at this one, because if I can make that work out, I'll keep it. If not, I'll do everything I can and then get it into the hands of someone more capable if that becomes the case. Because with a car like this, even if you don't succeed, even if you don't manage to restore it, if you make it better, if you pass it along then after you've done work to it to someone else who does more work to it, that saves them. That keeps this car and others like it from being parted out, from where the radiator shell becomes a wall hanger, and admittedly not a very desirable one because it doesn't even have a badge. So, You take your time with something like this. You do your research. You see what can be done. And you take it slow. You just enjoy the car for what it is. Because it won't get you anywhere fast. Working on it won't get done fast. And you have a beautiful money pit.